All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to unlock the secrets to really successful project management. We're breaking down the essential frameworks that help turn those big, complex goals into a finished reality.
So here's the big question, right? It's the one every single project leader faces. How do you take a massive, complicated project, one with a million moving parts, and actually steer it all the way to the finish line successfully? That's the core challenge we're tackling.
The answer isn't some single magic bullet. It turns out the best leaders, they have this incredibly well-organized toolbox. It's filled with all sorts of different tools for different jobs, and that's the exact metaphor we're going to be using today.
Okay, so let's crack open this toolbox, shall we? What's actually inside? What are these essential tools that really separate a good project manager from a truly great one?
So you open the lid and right away you see three main compartments. As you can see, they're labeled models, methods, and artifacts. Now each one has a very specific job, but, and this is key, they all have to work together. Trying to use one without the others, well, it's kind of like having a perfect blueprint and a pile of materials, but no tools to actually build anything.
Let's start with that first category, models. Now, a model isn't a physical tool you can hold, it's a strategic one. Think of it as a thinking strategy, a framework that helps you make sense of a process or what's going on. It's your game plan.
Okay, next up, we've got methods. So if models are about how you think, methods are all about what you do. A method is the specific technique or the tool you actually use to get a result or to create a deliverable.
And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, artifacts. These are the tangible things you actually create along the way. An artifact can be any template, any document, or any deliverable. It's the solid proof that work is being planned, that it's getting done, and that it's complete.
All right, let's pull out that first tray from the toolbox and really focus in on the models. The best way to think about these, they're your project's strategic blueprints.
Models are absolutely fundamental. They're these high-level frameworks that really define the why behind your entire project. They shape your whole approach before you even start doing any of the practical work. Honestly, without a solid model, your project is just a ship without a rudder.
And wow, just take a look at this catalog of models. You've got leadership models, like situational leadership. You've got models for team development, frameworks for change management. Each and every one is a tool designed to help you think strategically about a different part of your project.
But here's where it gets really interesting, seeing how these models map directly to specific performance areas. So for example, if your main focus is on team dynamics, you'd probably reach for Tuckman's ladder. But for a huge organizational change, a model like 8CAR is perfect because it helps with stakeholders, planning, and the project work itself. So we've got our strategic blueprints, the models, but now we need the actual tools to execute that strategy. So let's move on to the next section, the methods. Yep, if models are the blueprints, then you can think of methods as the power tools in your toolbox. These are the active, hands-on techniques you use to produce real results, analyzing data, making estimates, running meetings. This is where the work actually gets done. And once again, just look at the variety in this catalog. This table here is just for data gathering and analysis methods. That alone shows you how many specialized tools are out there, from something simple like a cost-benefit analysis for a quick decision, all the way to a complex Monte Carlo simulation for when you're dealing with a ton of uncertainty.
Now, the really crucial point here is that one method can be used in multiple areas. For instance, a SWOT analysis isn't just for planning, it's also critical for managing stakeholders and for dealing with uncertainty. And something like a daily stand-up meeting, well, that connects your high-level planning with what's actually happening day to day.
Okay, so we've got our blueprints, and we've got our power tools. So what's in that last tray of the toolbox? Well, it's everything we build and create along the way. It's the artifacts, your project's tangible, real-world outputs.
Artifacts are the concrete evidence of all your hard work. They're the project charter that kicks everything off, the risk register that keeps track of potential problems, and the status reports that tell everyone how things are going. Here's a good rule of thumb. If you can save it, print it, or present it, it's probably an artifact.
And this table does a great job organizing artifacts into categories, like strategy, logs, and plans. Documents like the business case or the risk register, they aren't just paperwork. As you can see, they're the structural cornerstones that give a project its shape and its direction.
This slide just brilliantly illustrates how these artifacts connect all the different phases. A project charter, for example, is absolutely key for getting stakeholders aligned during planning. The risk register, that's a living document you use all through planning and execution.
In a Gantt chart, that gives you that direct, beautiful link from planning all the way through to delivery.
So, there you have it, our three main categories: models for your strategy, methods for taking action, and artifacts for your outputs. But you know, the most important skill of all is knowing how to choose the right tool and put everything together.
Look, simply knowing that these tools exist isn't enough. The true mark of an expert project manager, a real pro, is the wisdom to look at any situation, a tight deadline, a sudden roadblock, a need for better collaboration, and know exactly which tool from the toolbox is the right one for that job.
So how do you actually choose the right tool? Well, you can follow a pretty simple three-step process. First, identify the area you need to address. Is it a team issue, a planning problem, or maybe some kind of uncertainty? Second, you consult your catalog of options, just like the tables we've been looking at. And third, you select the specific model, method, or artifact that best fits the unique context of your project.
And that really brings us to the end. So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. When you really reflect on it, what's the most powerful and effective tool in your toolbox? Thanks for watching.